Hey, everybody, welcome to our weekly call. Matt Ham here on behalf of Red Earth Marketing. We do these calls every single Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, just as a way to keep morale high, to keep encouragement on the forefront, provide some practical and tangible benefits to you all. Over the last, good gracious, 4 months, we've been walking through John Maxwell's 17 Laws of Teamwork. And it's been great. It's been a refresher for a lot of us. I've had a lot of folks reach out, say, man, this is really good to revisit. It's caused me to rethink some of these things. And I think it's essential for us as real estate professionals, especially those who are in captive sales, knowing that we are part of a team as much as we like to be independent. So the team aspect matters tremendously, not only at your local community, but also too within the Red Earth organization, as we are all part of a team. So today is Law 16. We've only got this week and next week, and then we'll move on to a new topic and get into some new stuff. But we want to wrap up the 17 laws of teamwork really well, and so that's kind of the heart and intent today. So today, Law 16 is the law of high morale. The law of high morale. And the tagline that Maxwell uses is, when you are winning, nothing hurts. When you are winning, nothing hurts. Now, the flip side of this, the law of low morale, would be when you're losing, everything hurts. And so I think it's very timely and apropos that we address this, because morale among a team is it's that X factor, right? It's the attitude of the team. It is the underlying kind of if you think about a field, like the soil, right, of a team, like good stuff grows in good soil. If morale is bad, that is toxic soil. And so new opportunities cannot take root in toxic soil. And so morale is kind of the soil. It's like the acidity of the soil of the team. If you've got a very acidic soil or a very basic soil, plants are not going to thrive in that. And so I encourage you guys, as you're thinking about this today, don't only think about the morale of a team, also think about the morale of your own heart. Because a salesperson whose morale is low is going to be melancholy, is going to go through the motions. And I promise you that a client or a customer can pick up on low morale very, very quickly. And it does a great deal of, has a great impact on whether or not that relationship is successful. So we're looking at two things today. This is high morale, not only for the team dynamic, but also within the individual dynamic. We've got to be honest and assess, where is my morale? Where is my morale? Is it high? Is it low? Because the reality is when morale is high, like he says, nothing hurts. You know, if you're running on adrenaline and you're running on success, you might have a slip up, a little roadblock, but you just go right over it. He tells a great story here about, again, he uses all athletic metaphors, but he uses the 1996 gymnastics, women gymnastics team when they had the Olympics at Atlanta. Carrie Strug was the young girl, and in her first event, she actually sprained a ligament in her ankle, but she went on to press through, and it was the first gold medal for the U.S. women's gymnastics team. You know, I was like 14, 15. I just remember the energy around that. Maybe you do. But the point he was trying to make is that, you know, even for an athlete, if the morale is high and the energy is high, if they sprain an ankle or if they get hurt, you have a capacity to push through difficulty because morale is high. Same thing goes in a sales team. If we're popping off sales, the community is booming. You know, if we have a little bit of a bump with a relationship, or if we have a cancellation, it doesn't really affect us that much because the energy is moving in a positive direction. Morale is high. But if morale is low and we haven't had anything going on, and we have this golden goose come in and we think this is going to be the sale that gets me back going, and all of a sudden the person cancels, oh, I knew it was going to happen. It's the same thing every time, right? I actually got a text from one of my coaching clients this morning, and I've been working with her about just putting numbers in the bucket. I said it doesn't matter if you close the deal, meaning you get a final approval, For you guys, it would be contracts. Just put things under contract. Just put offers on the table. Focus on offers. Don't focus on closings. If you focus on offers, I promise it's going to drive closings. And so that's the kind of analogy for you guys. But she goes, oh, 2 today got canceled. And I'm going, I hear you. It's really difficult. But keep the morale high and keep focusing on getting contracts moving toward closing. So high morale. One of the things that Maxwell says here is high morale is a great exaggerator, meaning if morale is high, even little victories are like, yes, it's just like things are continuing to go. So high morale exaggerates good things, but it minimizes the bad things. He goes on to say that it is an elevator, right? Is when morale is high and the team is playing at a high level, it raises up the low hanging fruit. Like the people that are apart, maybe the lower producers, or it has a rising tide aspect. When morale is really high and the energy is really high, everybody tends to kind of rise with that. It's an elevator. He also says that it is an energizer. When you've got a team that's vibrant and somebody sells something, boom, high fives all around and everybody wins, right? We keep moving forward. It also says that high morale is the great eliminator. And I love this because if you've got high morale and the team is functioning at a high level, the negative Nancy's cannot stick around. They can't stick around because the soil is too fertile. They get tossed by the wayside. So high morale is a great eliminator of the things and people in your life that you don't need. They say bad attitudes attract bad company, right? The idea is if your attitude's bad and you've kind of got low morale, you get a bunch of Eeyores hanging around each other, and it's like, oh, well, here we go again. Just another day in the office, right? And I hate this about people who sarcastically go, how you doing today? Well, just another day in paradise. You ever hear people say that? Drives me bonkers because it's sarcastic. What you're really saying is I hate what I do. I don't like my life, and I'm trying to convince myself that it's paradise, right? That is not high morale. That is a negative Nancy, cynical, critical attitude, and it always gets weeded out when morale is high. And then he said high morale is the great emancipator, is that it brings freedom to the team. That it sets the air, the atmosphere in the room. When the morale is high, it's a place where people can thrive. It's a place for freedom. And so think about the morale among your team. And I know all of you, at least the ones that are on the live call, are on the same team. Maybe those who are watching this are on the same team as well. This is a conversation that must happen among the teams, because you have to establish and set the foundation for what the morale looks like. And he gives some specific things to do when morale is at certain levels. But know that morale matters, and high morale is going to eradicate and weed out the parts of the team that just don't fit, okay? It's kind of like if you have a sports team and everybody, hey, we show up 30 minutes early to practice. The person who shows up late to practice, the rest of the team is going to weed out that person because that person's just not a part of the team. So here he says there's 4 stages of morale. There's poor morale, low morale, moderate morale, and high morale. And the way he breaks this down is it's specific to the leadership of the team. So this is not only the leadership of your team, it's also the leadership of your own team, your personal team. So this has to do with when personal morale and corporate morale is low, when it is poor, when it is moderate, or when it is high. How do we function? So if morale is low, he says that requires that the leader does everything. So if your morale is low, man, you got to kick yourself into high gear. You've got to take responsibility, and you've got to be the catalyst. If you're a leader of a team with low morale or poor morale, it is on you to raise the team up. And how do you do that? He says, investigate the situation. Spend time figuring out the problems or the challenges. Spend time having difficult conversations. Be vulnerable enough to look yourself in the mirror and go, you know what? This is probably what's going on. Once you do that and you assess it, you have to be the one to initiate belief. You've got to be the catalyst. You've got to lead yourself, or if you're the leader of a team, you've got to be the one. A leader, if the morale of the team is low, a leader does not go, oh, you guys are right, things just suck, we might as well just throw in the chips now. What kind of leader would that be? Any great moment in history when morale is low, the leader is the catalyst that steps in and says, hey, get your head straight. Hey, it's not over yet. Hey, we got to focus. Hey, we got to fight. You know, it's that moment where the leader grabs the person by the collar and says, come on, get in the fight. Right? So the leader has to be the catalyst. The leader has to create the energy, is basically what it says. So if the energy's low on the team, then the leader's got to be the one responsible to raise the energy. And then the final piece, if poor morale exists, whether it's individually or corporately, you have to communicate hope. Communicate hope. I can't stand people who say hope is not a strategy. Okay, cool. It is for me. So go on down your merry way with your negative attitude. Hope is a strategy for me. So Napoleon Bonaparte said this: leaders are essentially dealers in hope. Leaders create vision, they create hope, they create energy, they initiate belief. So you've got to lead yourself well and the team well if morale is low, or excuse me, poor. Morale is poor. Stage 2 is what he calls low morale. So in a low morale situation, he says that the leader, you or the leader of the team, must become productive. And he says the number one thing you must do is model behavior that has a high return. Okay? If morale's not poor, but it's low, what have you got to do? You've got to be productive. You've got to get stuff done. So you model behavior that is such. Listen, make phone calls, go see people, get active, do stuff. And then it says develop relationships with people of potential. Clear out the cobwebs. Do not associate yourself with people, right, who are going to drag you down. Associate with people who have great potential. And then he said another great thing to do is set up small victories. Create tangible, achievable victories. Say, you know what? Right now, morale is low. I'm going to focus on making 10 phone calls. Boom, 10 phone calls. Bam, let's celebrate. Hey, you go make 10 phone calls. Boom, let's celebrate. Hey, dinner on me tonight. You guys achieved a small victory. 10 phone calls. Boom, let's do it again tomorrow. So that is one way to develop small victories that helps boost morale. And then lastly is communicate vision. That's what I said in the first. Without a vision, the people perish. This is a proverb. It is an essential truth. You've got to constantly communicate vision. I keep getting an image in my head of like being in a wartime or, being in a battle, and the leader is not the one hunkered down over in the corner going, oh, I want my mom. The leader's the one standing up and going, no, we got to fight. This is where we're going. This is why we're fighting. Let's get a little victory. Let's gain 5 feet. Let's gain 10 feet. So think about the energy necessary to move morale from poor to low and then low to moderate. In a moderate morale situation, he says that the leader must begin to do difficult things. Okay? To get from moderate to high, you got to start doing difficult things. Oh, this one's going to hurt. Make changes that make the team better. Make changes that make the team better. So if you've got a negative Nancy, right? Sometimes you got to make a change. Hey, we're moving in a different direction. We don't seem to share a constant or common belief or focus. It's probably time for you to go find something else to do. That's difficult, but that is essentially what takes a team from moderate morale to high. Then you start to get the buy-in of the team members. You've got to get the buy-in of the team members, right? If you don't have somebody who's buying into the vision, you got to make a change. So when you get people who buy into the vision, it's what moves you from moderate to high. Communicate commitment. Hey, people like us do things like this, right? I know it's 5 o'clock on a Friday, but guess what? We're making phone calls today. I know it's 3 o'clock on a Thursday and you're tired, but listen, we've got to be on our A game to take this tour. Hey, I know it's 9 o'clock and I called a 9 o'clock meeting. We're not rolling in at 9:15. That's not how we do things here, right? Communicate commitment. And you see, when you don't do this as a leader and when you don't do this in your own personal life, you float toward mediocrity. So you are either moving to a high morale situation or you're moving to a low morale situation. And if you're not communicating vision, if you're not communicating commitment, if you're not making difficult changes, if you're not getting buy-in from the team members, you are retreating to low and poor morale. So there's a trajectory here that you have to follow, and you've got to be consistent with it. The last thing he says for a moderate to high is you've got to begin to develop and equip people for success. You know what? If a team member needs something, we're going to focus on building them up. If they need some extra training, if they need some one-on-one time, a leader's going to give it to them. So this is where you've got to become active in your own life, and if you're a leader in the life of the team, you've got to move the team from poor to low to moderate to high, because here's the benefit. When you are in a high morale situation, the leader must do little things. So as you can see, the responsibility of the leader, that's you in an individual stance or a team leader in a corporate stance, is less engaged, right? Smaller as you move to high morale. The leader has to do a lot when it's poor, productive when it's low, difficult when it's moderate, and then little when it's high. So it's an inverse relationship. What he says right here is when the morale is high, the leader just has to keep the team on course. Hey, you're doing great. This is where we keep going. You're doing great. Keep going. Focused and on course. Communicate successes. Hey, Jenny did awesome today. Hey, Rosalie, you're crushing it. Hey, we're celebrating Stephanie today. Or hey, we're celebrating Steve today, whatever the case might be. And then remove morale mashers is what he calls them. This is, again, that same thing. If you're thriving, you're high functioning, I was watching the movie, what's it called? Remember the Titans. It's a great movie. Denzel Washington. Denzel. I love Denzel Washington. Denzel's my man. It's a great movie about a high school football team during segregation that comes together, black players, white players, and they fight and they end up, winning. And it's about this race issues kind of in the 50s and so forth. But there's a great scene in that where there's a player on the team, a white player, who doesn't block an opposing team member to allow one of his black players to get tackled. So he is a Debbie Downer. He's a negative Nancy. He's a weight to the team. And there's a white team captain. And the white team captain goes to this guy and he says, "You're off the team because you didn't block for my man. Because I know that you're having trouble with this whole race segregation issue or whatever." So you've got to remove morale mashers. You've got to get those people out. And then the last thing about a thriving high morale team is a great leader is going to allow others to lead. You got to get to a point in your leadership of yourself and where you're completely confident that you can entrust other people to step in. And in a high morale situation, everybody gets a chance to take the ball and run. And so think about this from an individual perspective. Think about this from a corporate perspective. We have to be an organization that moves to a high morale situation. So we've got to assess where we are, and then move in a certain trajectory. And that's required of a thriving, successful team, but it's also required of a thriving, successful individual. So I know there was a lot here. We're going on 18 minutes now. This is something great to go back through. If anyone wants to get more one-to-one on this and walk through it, if you want more details, feel free to reach out to me and I can provide those. But thank you guys for tuning in today for law number 16, the law of high morale. We'll be back next week to wrap it up with law number 17. Y'all have a great day.